the fuck? Oh, you got a little bonus. A bonus classic edition of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Sorry about that. We had a little technical glitch. I couldn't get connected to master control, but without getting too technical. But we are up and running and now live on the air from the Hesselson studio. I'm so glad that we could go live, so we have some opportunity to promote, of course, tomorrow's Salvation Army Telethon. Excited about that. We have a lot to cover as well. Breaking news coming in over the night. Yeah, we're hitting the ground running. We already have to take a break. Hitting the ground running. Biden is to announce clemency for around 1,500 people, including pardons for 39 convicted of nonviolent crimes. That was announced early this morning. That Biden is commuting the sentences of some 1,500 individuals and pardoning 39 people convicted of nonviolent crimes, marking a broad use of the presidential clemency power just weeks from the end of his administration, after using, obviously, the pardon power in what was really unprecedented and a free pass for Hunter Biden. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the program. The president, who has come under growing pressure to grant more clemency before he leaves office, will also promise that additional action will be announced in the weeks to come. The nearly 1,500 individuals whose long sentences will be commuted Thursday were placed on home confinement during the COVID-19 pandemic and were deemed to have demonstrated a clear commitment to rehabilitation and joining their communities. The 39 people being pardoned were convicted of nonviolent crimes and considered to have demonstrated records of meaningfully giving back to the community. So that is breaking news from overnight. Another story that is making the rounds this morning, and we have a viewer asking me what I thought about it. I have no opinion on this, but the mystery drones, they've been sighted over, what was it, Mar-a-Lago and New Jersey. They're not giving answers. Some have said that it could be the Pentagon practicing with new technology, which it seems like if you're doing that, you're not going to do it in such heavily populated and sensitive areas like Mar-a-Lago and elsewhere, where they would be so easily spotted and reported on. So I don't have an answer. Some early on, and the Pentagon denies this, but some have said maybe it's Iran that is involved in it. Some have suggested China. Senator Doug Steinhardt, a Republican, said there are a lot of angry legislators and soon-to-be angry mayors in the New Jersey town that has recently been the focus of the drones, and a lot of American citizens scratching their heads trying to figure out what are they doing. Now, they're claiming there is no danger. The video is clear. I mean, it's not a kind of unsolved mystery, blurry type video. They're there, but not a lot is known. Another update. I know now I'm going fast because I have a little bit of the delay with that technical glitch at the beginning. But we've been talking about the radicalization on college campuses, the anti-Semitism, the anti-American, anti-police protests. Just an update from Columbia, where the spotlight was really put on Columbia when it comes to these anti-Semitic protests, though it was very much elsewhere as well. Jonathan Lederer, class of 2026, reported, being punched in the face, and his twin brother David reported having the brothers' shared Israeli flag stolen at a protest earlier this week. The New York Police Department is investigating the incident as a hate crime. The New York Police Department's Hate Crime Task Force is currently investigating, according to the Cleary alert, whatever that is. So Columbia student reports being punched in the face and robbed of Israeli flag at a protest at Columbia. That's just a quick update to show you that it has not died down. The media's focus just has not been on it like in the past, and you've seen it's very much akin to what we're seeing with the assassination of that United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. This hatred out there that has been normalized, that people are going around actually putting up wanted posters of various insurance CEOs. They are attacking the McDonald's where the person reported Luigi was at. I mean, it's a very troubling time. It really does tie in with the hate on college campuses, I believe. That's an anti-Semitic hate, but it trickles out into this anger across the board. We may talk about that a little bit, showing you the difference between that case and the subway choke case. We're going to talk about that as well. But we got to take a break. Sorry, I'm a little flustered. We had a little tech issue, but now we're back up and running. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
I'm Marion Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
I'm Nancy O'Dell. This is Crime Expose.
It's chilling, taunting.
We knew exactly who it was.
Blood stains on her shorts.
See you in September.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is history making.
Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
Must have been a windy night. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking. The Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. That may be the farthest to the left it's gone. We're seeing, looks like good portions of the Rockwell Museum. Anyway, we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you to everybody joining us this morning. Okay, you may have heard this. It was it's still, I don't know if it's official or if the news has broke officially, but it's being stated that President-elect Donald Trump will ring the New York Stock Exchange bell this morning, and that comes off the heels the same day as he is expected to be named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Now, you may say, who cares? And that would be kind of my opinion about the Times Person of the Year. But still a very big day overall, being named Person of the Year and opening at the New York Stock Exchange, especially with his history in finance. Trump is expected to be on Wall Street to mark the ceremonial start of the day's trading, according to 4 people with knowledge of his plans. He will also be announced Thursday as Time's 2024 Person of the Year, according to a person familiar with the selection. The people who confirmed the stock exchange appearance and Time Award were not authorized to discuss the matter publicly, and that's why I said it kind of awkwardly, but you understand. It will be a notable moment of twin recognitions for Trump, a born and bred New Yorker, who at times has treated the stock market as a measure of public approval and has long prized signifiers of his success in New York's business world and his appearances on the cover of magazines, especially Time. Trump was named the magazine's Person of the Year back in 2016 when he was first elected to the White House. He's already been listed as a finalist for this year's award alongside Kamala Harris, Elon Musk, which I do think it should be Donald Trump. You could almost make an argument for it being Elon Musk, couldn't you? But that kind of is tied to Trump, so it'd be tough to name Elon Musk Person of the Year and not Donald Trump. Benjamin Netanyahu also on the list, and Kate, the Princess of Wales. Time has declined to confirm the selection, waiting for this morning's announcement. So that could be a very big day. These are all breaking news stories right at the top of the program. Okay, we do have to take another short break, and I apologize about that. We had a little, if you're just joining us, we had a little technical glitch in the morning, having a problem connecting without getting too technical. But we are on live now, which is wonderful. But because of that, I'm just running a little late. I have to make sure that we get all of our sponsors in there, all of our commercial breaks in there. We're going to talk a little bit about the Salvation Army later on, because tomorrow is the big telethon. Again, every dollar that we raise on the telethon will be matched up to $5,000. So if you want to make a $10 donation, that's like you made a $20 donation. If we raise $1,000, it means we raise $2,000 for the Salvation Army. Our goal, of course, is to raise that full $5,000, meaning that we can give the Salvation Army of Courting a $10,000 check. That's the goal. All right. We've got a lot to talk about. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Stock up for the holidays at GCP with amazing specials. 750 milliliter Kendall Jackson Chardonnay, normally $14.99, is now $12.99. Save more with mail-in rebate of $2 a bottle or $24 a case. And 750 milliliter Corbel Champagne, normally $13.99, on sale for $11.99 a bottle. Save $20 on 6 bottles or $50 on a case with mail-in rebate. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines and Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
How many times have you tried to clean a stubborn mess but end up with no success? What you need is the all-new waterproof Ruby Horsepower, the new cordless and rechargeable power scrubber that cleans faster and easier, guaranteed. Watch, baked on oven grease is no match. It easily blasts away dirt and grime in no time. The power comes from our rotating brushes spinning at 350 RPM. The incredible torque fights calcium, soap, mildew, mold, and more. Forget harsh chemicals. With just plain water, Horsepower can clean bathroom tiles and tubs back to their original shine and luster. It's a game changer in the kitchen, where it busts through caked-on crud. Take it outside and tackle tough tasks with ease. How strong is Horsepower? We took this distressed 100-year-old antique and restored it to like new with Horsepower. Amazing! Get your Ruby horsepower scrubber today with bonus scouring sponge for just $39.99. Save on buying batteries. It's powered with the latest rechargeable technology. But wait, you'll also get this stainless steel brush to make range hoods and gas stoves look brand new again. Yours free. And we're not done. You'll get this Smart Flex cone brush that fits perfectly into corners, tiny crevices on toilets and tiles, or hard-to-reach shower door rails. Yours free. And to top it off, we'll include this microfiber cloth to clean delicate surfaces and polish cars sparkling clean. It's also free. Great news! Horsepower is now in stock and ready to ship, but due to high demand, there is a strict limit of 2 per order. Order now.
Call 1-800-980-4241. That's 1-800-980-4241 or visit horsepowerscrubber.com. So call 1-800-980-4241 now.
Thank you to Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street. And quoting a comment from Ken this morning, the only logical explanation for the mystery drones would be that they are a new autonomous technology in surveillance drones that our military is testing in highly populated areas. It would be reasonable to not inform the public of the testing because that would also be informing our adversaries on new technology that is being tested. It would be foolish to think that, even with our woke military, they would allow any other country unfeathered access to fly drones in America, especially near a military facility. Well, and I agree with you, Ken. I totally agree with you. I'm not leaning towards any kind of conspiracy theory at all. What I would say, though, is if I'm playing devil's advocate, someone could point to the China balloon that was going across our country. A little different, I understand. Not quite apples to oranges, but I don't know, and I hope that you're right, that we wouldn't allow any other country unfettered access to fly drones. We did with that balloon for a while, the spy balloon, but this is happening so frequently, that would be an embarrassment of historic proportions. So I agree with you, Ken, but I guess if I was playing devil's advocate, that would be my only point. But thank you. Okay, CNN's Stephen Collinson says how 2 New York tragedies expose the failure of politics in a fraught American moment. 2 New York tragedies gripping America show how politics is failing to address some of the most fundamental economic and societal problems and reflect the nation's mood ahead of Donald Trump's second presidency. So somehow this is the mood is to blame. Trump is to blame for the mood. I'm confused. The killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, captured on surveillance footage, became a shared moment of national horror. But it was soon overtaken by a wider debate about the complexities of major executives in America's high healthcare costs and perceived injustices of the industry. Was it really perceived as national horror? I mean, we see so many people, especially on the left. I had mentioned on yesterday's program, watching a little bit of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and the audience was booing when they talked about Luigi being captured. And Stephen Collinson says online trolls celebrated his murder, and some people empathized with the alleged goals of Luigi. In another high-profile case, a Manhattan jury Monday acquitted Daniel Penny of criminal negligent homicide in the death of Jordan Neely, a street artist who struggled with homelessness, mental illness, and drugs on a New York City subway last year. The jury agreed with Penny, who was also 26, that he restrained Neely because he was trying to ensure people in the subway didn't get hurt or worse, from what witnesses said was Neely's erratic behavior. The chokehold case is also politicized. Penny has been lionized as a hero good Samaritan on conservative media, where commentators accuse liberal prosecutors of hounding Trump but ignoring public safety. Protests after the verdict portrayed Neely as a victim of racial injustice and the scourge of homelessness. Now this, again, coming from CNN. So to compare the two, not fair. And that's exactly what Miranda Devine is saying, because that you'll see this more and more in the media. They're trying to compare the two, not comparable whatsoever. And I'm going to tell you what Miranda Devine had to say in just a moment. But before that, do you remember Jamal Bowman, former Representative Jamal Bowman, who lost huge in his reelection bid in November? He argued in a letter addressed just to, and I quote, white people on Tuesday, that white supremacy is the reason Daniel Penny was acquitted in the subway chokehold death of Jordan Neely. In the bizarre rant that he posted on X, the departing squad lawmaker, yes, he was a squad, suggested that he doesn't understand why he feels the need to keep talking to white people. This is exactly what he said in his post. Dear white people, I don't know why I feel the need to keep talking to you. I don't know why part of me still has hope for you and for us. Some of you are too far gone, but maybe enough of you aren't and will join us in fighting to end white supremacy. He goes on to spotlight several high-profile cases of police violence against black men and women, as well as the 2012 killing of Trayvon Martin by Florida Neighborhood Watch volunteer George Zimmerman, who was also acquitted of wrongdoing. Quote, white supremacy is not skin color, it's a state of mind, he said. Jordan Neely is the latest. He was sick, he was not a threat, he was subdued, still not a threat. Daniel Penny choked him for 6 minutes and killed him. We all watched it on camera, and he was still acquitted. As part of a plea deal, or a plea agreement after, then he goes on through other, here we go. A community note appended to the tweet thread noted, as part of a plea agreement, after punching a 67-year-old woman in 2021, Jordan Neely was given free access to stable housing and health care at a treatment facility. Neely abandoned the facility after 13 days. So they had to put a kind of a, quote, fact check in there. The hatred for this man, and that's why I tied in with what Miranda Devine had to say, that Daniel Penny and Luigi Mangione each took different paths in life, and only one can be called a hero. Both Daniel Penny and Luigi Mangione were born in 1998. They were raised less than 250 miles apart, Penny on Long Island and Mangione in Townsend, Maryland, the only sons to loving families. Penny is the middle child of 3 sisters, and Mangione has 2 younger sisters. Both grew up into athletic and diligent young men. Mangione's upbringing was more privileged than Penny's, and he was more academically successful. He attended a prestigious Baltimore prep school, and then we've went through all this recently on the program. He then worked for various tech companies, including most recently as a software engineer at California online car seller True Car. At some point last year, he left the job and started to travel, winding up in Honolulu after backpacking through Asia. He reportedly loved Japan and spent time there earlier this year observing the culture, a bit like a professor studying ants, judging by emails that have surfaced online. Scary lack of free will in this country, he wrote in one email to an acquaintance describing an incident in which he went to the rescue of a man having a seizure, but was critical of the slow response of police who waited for green lights despite the urgency. Modern Japanese urban environment is an evolutionary mismatch for the human animal, he wrote. Penny grew up in a less wealthy environment without the advantages that Mangione enjoyed. He attended a public school where he excelled at sports before joining the Marines. After 4 years in the military, he spent several months working at a surf shop in North Carolina near Camp Lejeune. He then enrolled in college but found it unfulfilling. Like Mangione, he had come to a crossroads in his mid-20s and decided to travel the world in search of meaning. Penny dropped out of college and backpacked through Central America, inspired by the novel Don Quixote, he wrote in an online job-seeking profile. Until this year, the lives of these 2 restless young men tracked almost perfectly. Penny was, and she keeps going through this, it's a little bit longer. Each man has been described by friends as a people person, but that's where the similarities end. One of these all-American 26-year-olds is allegedly a cold-blooded assassin who fatally shot a man in the back in Midtown Manhattan. The other is a good Samaritan who saved subway passengers from a deranged vagrant who was threatening to kill them. Mangione and Penny both have found themselves caught in the tender mercies of Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg this year over 2 tragic and very different deaths in the city. Both young men see themselves in heroic terms, but Penny is the only hero. And that's an important point to make because they are trying to make the comparison between these 2 people as really not that much difference. Because if you look online, the people that are supporting Luigi, it is really sickening. And it shows a real serious disease plaguing this nation. She finishes, and yet it is Mangione and not Penny who's attracted swooning fans online who exhibit the same lack of empathy as their beloved anti-hero. It speaks of a society that has lost its moral compass, that Mangione sparks admiration while the valiant Penny is condemned as a white vigilante. It shouldn't have to be said. Cold-blooded murder is bad. Risking your life to save vulnerable strangers from a violent predator is good. On that note, let's take a short break. We've got a lot to talk about. We actually have a couple of weird things about Harris's campaign. Quite a few things here about Biden. Still criticism of the pardon over Hunter. Yesterday, Donald Trump making some announcements about his cabinet and some people around him. We'll talk about that. We'll see the attacks, if we have an opportunity to get to it, the attacks continuing on Pete Hegseth. That's a big story. Still trying to demean him, discredit him. We'll talk about that as well. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Welcome to Pangea Global Tea House.
Pangea Global Tea House offers comfort foods of the world with over 50 teas and a sampling of cuisine from over 10 countries. Come in and try our must-try Hawaiian fish tacos or ramen specialties today.
Due to the tremendous response, Hesselson's returns their Arnott Mall location this week with more great deals on their American Whirlpool, swim spas, and hot tubs. Thousands of dollars of savings and over 25 models still in stock, but 4 days only this Thursday through Sunday. Take delivery now and save even more. Plus, free chemicals, free steps, and free Bluetooth music. Hesselson still offers 0% financing options for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's Arnott Mall this Thursday through Sunday, Old Champ Store, with their American Whirlpool, hot tubs, and swim spas. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I'm Nancy O'Dell. This is Crime Expose.
It's chilling, taunting.
We knew exactly who it was.
Blood stains on her shorts.
See you in September.
If you season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Thank you to Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street Recording. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. Thanks for joining us. John Fetterman seems to be swimming against a Democrat current lately. Yeah, did you see he actually joined Truth Social? Donald Trump's Truth Social. Do you think that he is trying to set up early as a future presidential nominee as a moderate? That's a great question, but I've got to think that's a tough path. Not because he's not doing a great job speaking truth to power in his own party. Now, there's clearly a lot of things that I disagree with him on. But, I mean, he has been strong in his stance on Israel and some other issues, saying, you know, he said that Trump resonates with Pennsylvania voters. This is before the election. There's been some major issues where he's disagreed, and I would say he's more moderate. Some have compared him to kind of like maybe the Joe Manchin, the current day Joe Manchin. The problem with him running as president is that stroke. Remember, he had that stroke, and he really struggled for quite some time. I think coming off the heels of Joe Biden with the mental acuity questions, it might be very difficult for him. Also, he's got that issue that it's not a major issue, but that he hates to dress up and he wants to wear hooded sweatshirts. Yes, he looks like he's the man of the people, you know, as they say. That's all a little phony, too, because he did come from a pretty privileged background where his father paid his bills till he was like 40 years old, something like that. So I don't know. I think you might be onto something, but I'm just thinking of it from the other side that it could be a very difficult journey. That's not to say he doesn't want to take that journey. I just think it could be tough. But yeah, he joined. I thought I had it printed out, but I must got lost in the shuffle, or I stapled it to another page, but he joined Truth Social the other day. Okay, quickly, I wanted to mention this because this is important, and I don't want to forget. And this is from Congressman Nick Langworthy. There's no way to really segue into this. I see a lot of comments coming in. We'll get to those in just a moment. This is a comment from Langworthy, who voted to strengthen military and raise pay for our troops in the final passage of the National Defense Authorization Act, saying, "I will always fight to strengthen our military and support the brave men and women who defend our nation. This year's NDAA delivers a significant pay raise for junior enlisted service members, will cut wasteful spending at the Pentagon, and ensures our military remains the strongest fighting force in the world. Provisions of this legislation will prepare our counter threats from China, Russia, and Iran, while supporting National Guard deployments to secure our southern border, keeping America safe and strong. This bill, hold on, let me take that off the screen, will provide junior enlisted service members with a 14.5% pay raise, fully support the deployment of the National Guard at the southwest border to intercept illegal aliens and drugs, prevent Chinese espionage in our military, supply chains, and research institutions, expand U.S.-Israel military exercises and fully fund cooperative missile defense programs, increase funding for U.S. defense initiatives in the Indo-Pacific to bolster Taiwan's defense and support Indo-Pacific allies. That's very important. Save $31 billion by cutting inefficient programs, obsolete weapons, and bloated Pentagon bureaucracy. Cut $4 billion in programs that do not meet requirements. Here's a big one, folks. Abolish the DEI bureaucracy and climate change programs. Bans the teaching, training, or promotion of critical race theory. Permanently ban taxpayer-funded transgender medical treatment for children of service members. The fact that we even have to put some of these things in here. Counter anti-Semitism by prohibiting the sale of goods at DoD commissaries and exchanges from any entities that have or are engaged in a boycott of Israel. So thank you to Congressman Langworthy for voting for H.R. 8070, the Service Members Quality of Life Improvement and National Defense Authorization Act of fiscal year 2025. Okay. How much time do we have? We're having fun this morning. We're covering a lot. No real great way to segue for any of them. She has been, this person, the host of Call Her Daddy. You recall that podcast that Kamala Harris was on, not receiving the ratings that Joe Rogan did, but still, she went to this podcast. It was big story. Got somewhere around, I think, 8 million views. A lot of people said, why wouldn't you do Joe Rogan, right? On top of doing Call Her Daddy, because that is a popular podcast, don't get me wrong. So for whatever reason, since the election's over, this host, her name's Alex Cooper, has been kind of mocking and ridiculing what would arguably be her biggest guest, right? Which was the big get of getting Kamala Harris. She was baffled over reports that Vice President Kamala Harris failed campaign, blew 6 figures to build a version of her California-based studio in Washington for their controversial pre-election interview, claiming the makeshift cardboard set wasn't that nice. This was something weird that Harris did, and she requested of Joe Rogan too, was to have it almost on her home turf, meaning a hotel room somewhere like that, not going to the studio. I don't understand the reasoning there. And if it's for scheduling reasons, there's better use of $100,000 or however much it cost. What a waste of money. The 107 days where she spent $1.5 billion, but that to rebuild her set so you don't have to go to the actual studio, rebuild it in a hotel, it costs you 6 figures. Talk about wasting your donors' money. How would you feel if maybe you did? You donate to Harris and you hear these numbers. You say, oh, I scrimped and I saved and I gave her campaign $200. And then you find out how much and how quickly they wasted that kind of money. The failed Democratic presidential nominee reportedly used $100,000 from her war chest to build the fake set of the wildly popular podcast in a random house for the surprise October 6th interview. My studio that is gorgeous in Los Angeles doesn't even cost 6 figures. So I don't know how cardboard walls could cost 6 figures, she said in a recent interview. With love to them, it was gorgeous, but it wasn't that nice, she joked as the audience laughed along. It wasn't like gorgeous marble. Like, no, this was not 6 figures. What a waste. I'm just giving this to you quickly to show you the waste of money. That we've seen another big, huge waste of money that people are criticizing was her spending $900,000 to have her face, not Harris for president, just her face and then Harris for president, on the Las Vegas Sphere in Nevada. But anyway, just mind-boggling, the waste of money. But you know what's not a waste of money, folks? Donating to the Salvation Army of Corning. Yes, tomorrow is our big telethon. You saw yesterday Assemblyman Phil Palmisano popped into the studio unannounced, which is always a nice treat, and made his donation to the Salvation Army. So everything, because of an amazing, generous viewer, frankly speaking, everything that we raise from now to the telethon will be matched. So if you say, okay, here's $100, Frank, that when I turn it into the Salvation Army will be $200. So if you give this time of year to the Salvation Army, I know many people do, I would ask you to wait and either give it to me today, I'll be here. We'll have a kettle outside tomorrow morning. You can drop it off, or you can go online and through that QR code, or you could text the word match to 31333. Again, that's match to 31333. We will have a final count of how much we raised. Our goal is obviously to hit that $5,000 number so that we can give ultimately the Salvation Army $10,000. We'll have the final numbers count, I think Monday afternoon, so I'll make the announcement on Tuesday, but I have to verify that. We'll let you know. And listen, I'm just as excited as they are at the Salvation Army. So I want to know as soon as we can. But I hope that you'll be a part of tomorrow's telethon. We have so much great music from the Crystal Chords, Doc Possum. We have some great guests that are going to come in the studio. I think you're going to have a lot of fun. Some other announcements, Christmas announcements that we'll make. It's going to be our, frankly speaking, Christmas special. So please tune in tomorrow, and if you'd be so inclined, get your checkbooks ready or go online and make a donation. All right, let's take a short break. Stay with us. I hear that whistle, the Corning whistle, so we got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
Frankly Speaking, Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. The holiday season has arrived, a time where more than ever our thoughts turn gratefully to those who serve our community and those all around us. May the holiday season end the present year on a cheerful note and make way for a fresh and bright new year. Here's wishing you a happy holidays. This holiday greeting is brought to you by our friends at Tom South Corning Collision, Sheddon's Wholesale, Suburban Propane, Corning Building Company, Empire Bricks, Hector Wine Company, and Apple Ridge Senior Living.
I'm Nancy O'Dell. This is Crime Expose.
It's chilling, taunting.
We knew exactly who it was.
Blood stains on her shorts.
See you in September.
The best 2 hours of NFL coverage, starting with Fox NFL Kickoff at 11.
This is great TV.
It is caught! Then at noon, take it to the next level on Fox NFL Sunday.
This kid has it all.
Touchdown! America's #1 pregame show. The best NFL pregame shows are back to back.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your home and security needs. Another angle on our roof cam on this apparently windy night and windy day. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson's studio. Let's go to some comments. Frank, to play Redevil's advocate with you, this is Ken, on the China balloon. I again don't think that the woke military is so impaired by nice guy ideology that they would allow a balloon to traverse our country without a good military reason, which again would logically be that they determined it wasn't an immediate threat to the public, worked to see how our signal jamming capabilities worked, and try and glean any information on how the Chinese navigate the balloon from China or any other remote location. Fair enough, Ken. I mean, I don't really have, like I said, I want to agree with your first statement and with this statement as well. I don't know. We've seen some pretty wacky things the last 4 years, but I do appreciate your point. I think you are right on that. I don't think the military would allow that, and I do definitely hope you're right. We've got a couple things here about Joe Biden that we're going to be talking about this morning, about pardons, also immigration. It's unbelievable. The New York Times, we talk about the bias in the media so often. The New York Times, who has admitted that they don't have to be fair or impartial, nothing's off limits to go after Trump. Well, the New York Times is finally admitting, mind you, after the election, that immigration is an issue. It's amazing. So we will talk about that a little bit later on, and then the attacks on Pete Hegseth. But let's talk about the Hunter Biden pardon. Now, we've been told that it was a labor of love, that Joe Biden didn't want to do this. Over the weekend, they threw James Clyburn under the bus, saying that it was him that convinced Biden to do it. Well, according to a new poll by AP, NORC, just 2 in 10 Americans said they approve of President Biden's decision to issue a sweeping pardon. The controversial move, which Biden had previously said he would not make, drew bipartisan backlash from lawmakers in Congress and appears to have frustrated a large swath of the American public, per the poll. Only 22% of Americans approve of the president's decision to pardon Hunter Biden. The figure is higher among Democrats, 38%, and lower among Republicans, 7%. Now, 12% of independents say they approve of the pardon. Overall, 51% of Americans say they disapprove of the pardon, while another 18% say neither approve nor disapprove. And about a quarter of Democrats surveyed said they disapprove of the decision, while 80% of Republicans said the same. Now, I think it's interesting, and everything's politicized, right? Just like we talked about. Oh, another comment, and we're going to get to that in a moment. Everything's so politicized, just like we were talking about with the assassination of that CEO, Brian Thompson. That goes to this viewer's comment. Morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Wow, I can hardly believe that some deranged people actually condone the murder of the CEO by an obvious nut. Oh, yeah, not just condoning it, supporting it, encouraging it. There's wanted posters up throughout the city for other CEOs. You had, like I said, a show that you can call mainstream to an extent. It wasn't on some fringe, YouTube channel. The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, though, goes left, of course. It's still not what you would call fringe. And they were booing when you start talking about Luigi being turned in by that McDonald's employee. So yes, this is not just being condoned; it's being encouraged. He's being propped up. They're making fan clubs. They have merchandise out now with the words that he used that were etched on the bullets to kill Brian Thompson. So Luigi Mangione's become, for lack of a better word, a folk hero to many on the left, which is terrifying. Elizabeth Warren actually said just yesterday, I brought it on this program, and I see it's been making the rounds in the news quite a bit after this program brought it up, but that you can only push people so far. She said something to that extent. So yeah, very terrifying. But back to this politicalization issue. Think about that. If you're a Democrat, you say, well, I guess it's okay. The Biden pardoned his son. After you talked about no one is above the law for 4 years, using that as an attack line against Trump, it's so hypocritical. And to think that you would support something. Listen, I think if Biden would have come out and just said, it's my son. I know. I said I wasn't going to do it. It's my son. Going to do it. People would have still been angry. But the fact that he went after it in a way that went after his own Department of Justice and said it was politicized, that should have upset Democrats, because now they have to defend something that sounds very reminiscent of what Trump has been saying. Anyway, I don't want to keep reading the numbers, but as you know, Biden's son, this pardon covers any crimes he has committed or may have committed between January 1st, 2014 and December 1st, 2024. The decision reversed Biden's previous promise that he wouldn't pardon or commute his son's sentence. We know all about that. But only 2 in 10 Americans surveyed approve of that pardon. Even his former top aide slammed it. meaning Biden's former top aide. We'll talk about that when we come back. Got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Due to the tremendous response, Hesselsen's returns their Arnott Mall location this week with more great deals on their American Whirlpool swim spas and hot tubs. Thousands of dollars of savings and over 25 models still in stock, but 4 days only this Thursday through Sunday. Take delivery now and save even more. Plus, free chemicals, free steps, and free Bluetooth music. Hesselsen still offers 0% financing options for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's Arnott Mall this Thursday through Sunday, Old Champ Store, with their American Whirlpool hot tubs and swim spas. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
And Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
Thank you again to Boss Security and Horses. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselsen studios. We prepare for tomorrow's telethon. So as I mentioned, a former top advisor to President Biden slammed the pardon of Hunter Biden. Anita Dunn, remember that name? Anita Dunn, a longtime Biden ally who served as his senior advisor for communications, indicated that she supported the decision to pardon the 54-year-old son, but not for the reasons the president used to justify it. Quote, I absolutely agree with the president's decision here. I do not agree with the way it was done. I don't agree with the timing, and I don't agree, frankly, with the attack on our judicial system. And this is what I was referencing. That's what concerned or angered many Democrats, because they were fine with him pardoning and the sweeping, broad pardon of Hunter Biden. They were fine with it because it also protects Biden in some ways. They were fine with that. They didn't like that he was using words that sound eerily similar to that of Donald J. Trump. Dunn argued that Hunter deserves the pardon, but that the argument and sort of the rationale for it doesn't pass muster. Why does Hunter deserve the pardon? Because his last name is Biden? Well, I don't know. She said the argument is one that I think many observers are concerned about. A president who ran to restore the rule of law, who has upheld the rule of law, who has really defended the rule of law, kind of saying, well, maybe not right now. Would you say the rule of law was enforced under Biden, when it comes to our border and the laws against illegal immigration? So that's an interesting take that all of a sudden he's Mr. Law and Order. But continuing with her point, yeah, that's one of the problems that Democrats have with this, because you ran for 4 years saying, or the talking points for 4 years is no one is above the law. That's why we have to use all this lawfare against former President Donald Trump. We have to, because no one is above the law. Oh, except for Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is above the law. Dunn suggested that the White House officials were not part of this process and that the Biden family and defense lawyers came to the conclusion that a pardon for Hunter was necessary. Quote, had the pardon been done at the end of the term, in the context of compassion, the way many pardons will be done, I'm sure, and many, I think would have been a different story. Kind of choppy there. Sorry, pardon me. Yeah, do it right at the end. I do think there's a couple reasons why I couldn't wait right to the end, because wasn't the sentencing at some point in this month towards the end of December? And of course, you normally have those last minute pardons. We'll see. I had the breaking news story for you earlier of quite a few people have their sentences commuted. That was on breaking from CNN early this morning, announcing clemency for around 1,500 people, including pardons for 39 convicted of nonviolent crimes. Speaking of pardons, we'll save this. I have one more thing on this, right? Yes, one more thing on this, and we'll save it for the next hour because we were running out of time for this hour. Keep those comments coming in. Appreciate you being a part of the program this morning. It's a busy morning. Tomorrow's going to be really busy. You want to set your alarm. You don't want to miss the Salvation Army Telethon, if nothing else, for the great music, the great guests. I might give away a little bit of that later on today's program. So stay with us. This is, Frankly Speaking, with hour number 1 in the books, hour number 2 on its way. Stay with us.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
The holiday season has arrived, a time where more than ever our thoughts turn gratefully to those who serve our community and those all around us. May the holiday season end the present year on a cheerful note and make way for a fresh and bright new year. Here's wishing you a happy holidays. This holiday greeting is brought to you by our friends at Tom South Corning Collision, Sheddon's Wholesale, Suburban Propane, Corning Building Company, Empire Bricks, Hector Wine Company, and Apple Ridge Senior Living.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is History Making. Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on historic Marcus Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. On the subject of drones, and this is Fred that writes in, on the subject of drones, I believe that in light of the spy balloons last summer being allowed to cross the country, a natural next step would be testing our reaction to drones. Never underestimate the gross incompetence of the federal bureaucracy where our woke military leaders are incapable of a decisive decision. Thank you very much, Fred. We're having a good discussion on that this morning. We should have been bringing it up before this. I didn't realize it was such a hot topic for everyone. We are going to talk, speaking of that, kind of cleaning up, for instance, the Pentagon, when we talk about Pete Hegseth. There's an attack on him that has been essentially debunked, but there's a reason, in my opinion, they're so scared of him. We'll talk about that in a moment. But as I said, we have one more. Oh, before I talk about the pardon, this is really fascinating to me. Elon Musk has become the first person with a $400 billion net worth. $400 billion. And when you get numbers like that, I find this kind of fascinating when someone is that rich. And this isn't, I think the article is putting it in a way that they're trying to maybe be negative towards him and Trump. But I just find this fascinating. I thought you would too. So Federal Election Commission filings show that Musk spent $277 million to help Trump win re-election. Now, before you're shocked, remember, Harris spent $1.5 billion in their campaign. But listen to this. Musk spent $277 million to help Trump win a re-election. Now, if you do the math on that, that is the equivalent of someone with a net worth of $100,000. So you're worth $100,000 donating $70. Think of that. The $277 million means that little when you're worth $400 billion. I just thought that was really interesting. Yes, so if you had $100,000, it'd be like donating $70 to Trump. Really interesting. So back to the pardons. Bill Clinton may talk to Biden about a preemptive pardon for Hillary, so Trump can't lock her up. Is this story from 2016? This is what I'm saying. They're writing these articles and they keep putting this preemptive pardon for people that Trump might go after just to paint the picture and create the narrative that Trump is going to be on some, I don't know, some big retribution attack on everyone. It's so confusing to me because he has said that's not what he wants to get back at them with his success. And keep in mind, he was president for 4 years, starting in 2016. So why didn't he go after Hillary Clinton then? That's when it was fresher. That's when there was chance at the rallies of lock her up. So why wouldn't they do it then? It's so interesting because they talk about this going after his opponents when they did that exact thing to him through the lawfare. But Bill Clinton on Wednesday said he was willing to talk to President Joe Biden about a presumptive pardon for wife Hillary Clinton in case Donald Trump would try to lock her up. Why doesn't Biden just throw these complete blanket pardons at everybody? This one might be for other reasons, though. This might be like the Hunter situation where you say, oh, crimes known and unknown, and that protects Hillary from heaven knows what could come out. Trump rallied against Clinton in their 2016 campaign, and his nominee to lead the FBI, Kash Patel, has said he thinks the former Secretary of State has potentially committed crimes. Lock her up was a common chant about Clinton from Trump supporters. Again, this is to ignore 4 years when he had the opportunity to do it. Bill Clinton, he was on The View, called any potential targeting of his wife a fool's errand. If Kash Patel is determined to make one up, he could do it. But I think if President Biden wanted to talk to me about that, I will talk to him about it, the former president said. However, he then added that he may not be the best person to talk about pardons. During his presidency, Clinton caused a huge controversy when he pardoned billionaire Mark Rich, who had been a fugitive for decades for fraud related to making illegal oil deals and not paying more than $48 million in taxes. I don't think I should be giving public advice on the pardon power. I think it's a very personal thing, but it is, I hope, Trump won't do that. Trump, most of us get out in this world ahead of where we'd get if all we got was simple justice. And so it's normally a fool's era to spend a lot of time trying to get even. Okay. Isn't that exactly what Trump has been saying? That he wants to focus on success and making America great again and not about weaponizing the judicial system to go after his enemies like they did to him. And threatened, who was it that threatened the other day that we have to use the full force of the government against Elon Musk? I mean, so it's not just Trump. Speaking of Biden, the U.S. immigration, has surged to its biggest in U.S. history, even outpacing the days of Ellis Island. The U.S. has seen its largest surge in immigration in its history under the Biden administration, surpassing the Ellis Island era migration boom that changed the face of the nation forever. An average of 2.4 million immigrants per year poured into the U.S. between 2021 and 2024, according to the Congressional Budget Office. About 60% of the migrants crossed into the U.S. illegally, a Goldman Sachs analysis found. The total net migration during the Biden administration is expected to reach more than 8 million, exceeding even the pace of new arrivals to the United States during the 1850s, when the portion of foreign-born residents exploded. That's according to the New York Times. Yes, you heard me right. The New York Times now reporting on this. A spokesman for the Federation for American Immigration Reform said, for the past 4 years, we've been hearing from the administration. It's not a problem. The American public knows when they're being lied to. And that was one of the things that probably influenced the election. What Biden created day one was chaos, yes. And ignoring it, and then when they could no longer ignore it, do essentially nothing about it after 3.5 years and say, now it's a problem. But this is why I tied in, because we want to talk about the bias in the news media, the New York Times specifically, the Post calling them out, saying 5 weeks after Election Day, the New York Times just came out with a useful explainer on one of the voters' top concerns, the Biden illegal immigration surge. All the news that's fit to print once it doesn't matter for Democrats. Yes, 5 weeks after the election. That's a very important time frame on this, folks. David Leonhardt, the Gray Ladies crack numbers guy, lays out key information, all of which has already been reported, by the way, in the New York Post. The immigration surge of the past few years has been the largest in U.S. history. And total net migration during the Biden administration is likely to exceed 8 million people, a faster pace of arrivals than during any other period on record, including the peak years of Ellis Island traffic. The result, quote, the share of the U.S. population born in another country hit a new high, 15.2%, topping the 1890 figure of 14.8. And even, quote, the Biden administration's policy appears to have been the biggest factor, end quote, in the surge. This is how the New York Times is reporting it. It reminds me, it's very reminiscent of Hunter Biden, too, that story, because they never wanted to cover it. They called it conspiracy. They called it Russian misinformation, et cetera, et cetera. So when it finally became a legitimate story, they had to almost backtrack and recap for their viewers or their readers or their listeners. Oh, by the way, this is what's been going on since this originally started, and we wouldn't tell you about it. That's what we're seeing here. Leonhard even names some downsides, including the pressure on social services and increased competition for jobs, and how the surge will reduce wage growth for Americans who did not attend college, which is a win for higher income folks who thus pay less for services. Pretty important information that the Times editorial board has been denying for Joe Biden's entire term. But how convenient to have this hard-hitting expose after it no longer matters, or I should word it, no longer hurt the Democrats. Of course, the Times still sticks to some favorite chestnuts, complaining that some Republicans push, quote, falsehoods about recent immigrants, claiming that they have caused a crime wave, even though immigrants have historically committed crime at lower rates than native-born Americans. The, quote, historically committed claim is based on a few small, outdated studies, and even then can't tell us anything about today's migrants. So how does falsehoods apply? We look to the Times expose of the Tren de Aruga's crime spree in the United States, which, based on its track record, should come sometime in the spring. The whole thing amounts to a belated and still hesitant explanation to Times readers of why its candidate lost, on the probably all too true assumption that they'd only been getting their facts from the Times and like-minded outlets. Also absent is any note from the paper's editors along the lines of, sorry, we're only telling you the truth now, but we figured you didn't want to know. Of course, if the papers decided to truly join the reality-based community, it'll do climate change and energy policy next. And that ties in with Mark Krokorkian. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. But he's the executive director of Center for Immigration Studies. And he talks about the New York Times finally telling the truth about Biden's border failures, but unfortunately, after the election, they know exactly what they are doing. With the election safely over, the Times has finally informed its readers that, wouldn't you know it, the immigration surge of the past few years has been the largest in U.S. history. Well, knock me over with a feather. Like the legacy media's belated acknowledgement of the Hunter Biden laptop story, it's only after the news can no longer hurt their preferred candidate that America's newspaper of record is willing to publish the truth. The story itself is well done and provides a lot of good information that was available all along to anyone who cared to look. And I'm not going to go through all the information. You can find it for yourself. The scale of the betrayal of their readers by the Times and other legacy media over the past 4 years was evident from a reader's online comment about the article. Quote, what is frustrating is that while I feel I am an informed citizen, I never had a clear idea of what the immigration situation was. Wow. But, this is very much like covering up the mental decline of Joe Biden. The media did that for 3.5 years. And then when it was no longer expedient for them, they wanted somebody else in there. They turned on Biden and exposed the mental, well, it was really the debate, but then turned on him and saying that he has to get out there. He's mentally not well. But that was after the fact. When they knew all along the scandal, covering it up for 3.5 years. And then now they have the audacity to blame him for staying in too long when they had been propping him up. They're so transparent in their bias at this point. What an indictment of an institution that claims to offer, quote, all the news that's fit to print. I'd always understood fit to print to mean that the Times wouldn't stoop to presenting its readers with something trivial. Instead, I guess fit to print actually means doesn't contradict our preferred storyline. The reader who was frustrated that he didn't have the whole story should have broadened his media diet by reading the reporting at the New York Post. To be fair, the writer of the Times story, David Leonhardt, has been trying to warn his fellow liberals about the political and policy problems caused by their single-minded pursuit of unlimited immigration. He runs the Times, quote, the morning newsletter, and in the past year has been able to get away with addressing immigration a couple of times. But it's telling that until this week, his most extensive treatment of the issue was published not by the Times, but by an Atlantic magazine. It's not healthy in a democracy for the prestigious media to tailor its news reporting to satisfy a political agenda. If the Times' belated decision to tell its readers the truth about the border is a sign that things are changing. It'll be all to the good, but I'm not holding my breath. On that note, a couple last-minute things on Biden, then we're going to get into Trump. Keep those comments and waves coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Wow, you found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-781-9990 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-781-9990. 1-800-781-9990. Call now.
Football's newest show breaks down all things NFL. GMFB Overtime.
Check out top highlights, player interviews, special guests, and everything in between. 5 days a week.
GMFB Overtime. It's football for everyone.
I'm Nancy O'Dell. This is Crime Expose.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horsets. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. That is a beautiful view and a different view of historic Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Did you see Jill Biden catching herself yesterday at an event at the White House after she made an ill-considered reference to the, quote, joy Americans are now feeling entering the holiday season? Now, of course, joy was the word that was associated with Kamala Harris. It was a part of that momentum the media kept telling us about, this huge momentum, this vibe presidency, or presidential campaign, the vibe, the joy, that the other side is weird. And that campaign spent $1.5 billion, folks, in 107 days to get things like that. Joy. So the First Lady went on a tangent about the joy of the holidays, a buzzword that had defined Harris's short-lived campaign, while speaking at a conference on advancing women's health research. Jill urged attendees to take note on the White House decor and quote, feel, I don't know, a sense of joy, because I think we all need, like this, we all need to feel joy now. As the audience was kind of looking at her, she blurted out, you're all reading into that. The First Lady and Vice President have had a frosty public relation after Harris succeeded her husband. Yeah, have you seen that? Every time they've been in like the same groups or same meeting, very uncomfortable. You could cut the tension with a knife. Yet when Jill Biden, I love this, when Jill Biden's at Notre Dame Cathedral, sitting next to Donald Trump, seemed like they were having a blast. Seemed like they were having a lot of fun. But again, when they're in the room with Doug Emhoff and Kamala Harris, very chilly reception, because not only did she And remember, Biden did endorse her, but not only did she take his position there, she did not really campaign. She did not campaign effectively in support of him in their mind. That they should have used him more. That she should have been more supportive. Now the other side would say she was maybe too supportive of Biden, maybe too pointing to Biden too much, saying on The View that she can't think of anything different she would have done than Biden. So it's weird, their frosty relationship. But again, it goes back, and we were saying it way before the Joe Rogans of the world was saying it. I was saying it during the election, that I think that Joe Biden is now very happy that Donald Trump won, if I'm being honest, because now he is the only Democrat that he could say that could beat Donald Trump. They ousted him. The elites ousted him, replaced him with Harris. She lost. So he could say, I told you so. I mean, that's why I think he's not upset by this win. The White House has denied any private tensions between the Biden and Harris families, even as President Biden and Jill ignored them totally at the Kennedy Center honors. That was awkward. I mean, not even an acknowledgement. The Bidens didn't acknowledge Harris or her husband, Doug Emhoff, standing right next to them, and appeared to avoid all eye contact when making their grand entrance. And a source with direct knowledge of the event said that the couples declined to speak with each other the entire night. Now, there's no reason that Harris should be upset with Biden. The only reason Harris was in there because it was reported that Obama and other Democrat elites wanted somebody else other than Harris. Even before Biden dropped out, wanted someone else for vice president, remember? But definitely when they ousted and when they had that coup and got Biden out, they wanted somebody other than Harris, and Biden got out there saying, hey, I still have a little taste of power left, and endorsed Harris. But Obama wanted, I think they said Mark Kelly. There's some other names being thrown around. So Harris, really the only reason she had that campaign and had, the honor of running for presidency of the United States, it wasn't because of the will of the people or the vote of the Democrat Party. It was because Biden endorsed her. So I don't understand why she would be upset in that instance. Now, the night before, Jill had chatted with Trump at the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. A conversation that the former president said could not have been nicer. Very nice. She couldn't have been nicer. It's politics. You have to get used to it, he said, about past grievances between himself and her husband. She was very nice, and we had a very nice conversation. Biden also joked throughout his remarks about women's health, making a reference to the brain surgery he had years ago. I had 2 9-hour operations. Took the top of my head off twice. Couldn't find the brain the first time, he joked. He also revealed that he and Jill will continue to fight despite leaving the White House next month. We're not going away, he said. I guess a desire to remain in politics. We've got to take another short break. We're going to talk a little bit about Pete Hegseth and ProPublica having this kind of botched smear attempt against Pete Hegseth. They have been, I guess he is the public enemy number one to those in the media to the left. I would have thought they might go after, and they will, don't get me wrong, they already are a little bit, but not to the level of Pete Hegseth. I thought they might go after Tulsi Gabbard or Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and they will, but to this level. Now, they would have Matt Gaetz, but of course Matt Gaetz dropped out. It's being reported, by the way, on Matt Gaetz that it was Ted Cruz that put the end to Matt Gaetz's ascension. Ted Cruz was reportedly the secret liaison last month who told President-elect Donald Trump that his pick for Attorney General, former Representative Matt Gaetz, didn't have enough votes to be confirmed in the Senate, leading to a change of strategy for subsequent nominees like Defense Secretary designate Pete Hegseth. Cruz met with Gaetz amid a firestorm of sexual misconduct allegations, including a since-buried House Ethics Committee report, and later told the 45th president his nominee didn't have the numbers. This is being reported on by Politico. Trump then called his attorney general designate the morning after his talk with Cruz to say, I don't think you've got a path. As Texas former Solicitor General, Cruz also conveyed reservations about the Florida Republican taking the top law enforcement post in the second Trump administration. Yeah, there was a lot of concern there. I think there would have been some people that would have voted for Gaetz to be in there saying, it's Trump's pick. I don't think there's any way he would have had the numbers. That was a tough one. That was an interesting pick, and I think there's Republicans that support Trump wholeheartedly that could not support that pick. But the new reported details come weeks after the Post learned that there was a private whip count shared and relayed to Trump and Gates that also showed no path forward for the Attorney General pick. Well, he had made a lot of enemies on both sides, Gates, with the whole McCarthy Speaker of the House scenario and really wanting to be kingmaker and power broker. Cruz was with Trump during the deliberations. They both attended Elon Musk's SpaceX rocket launch back on November 19th. Gates withdrew from the confirmation fight 2 days later. A Trump transition spokesman said at the time it was solely Gates' choice. The ex-GOP representative had withdrawn his name just 1 day after meeting with GOP senators on the Hill as well. Interesting that Ted Cruz it is being reported, somewhat involved. All right, we got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
The holiday season has arrived, a time where more than ever our thoughts turn gratefully to those who serve our community and those all around us. May the holiday season end the present year on a cheerful note and make way for a fresh and bright new year. Here's wishing you a happy holidays. This holiday greeting is brought to you by our friends at Tom South Corning Collision, Sheddon's Wholesale, Suburban Propane, Corning Building Company, Empire Bricks, Hector Wine Company, and Apple Ridge Senior Living.
Now leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, the portable oxygen concentrator that moves with you.
This little box changed my life. I can now do all those things that I want to do. You just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
Inogen portable oxygen systems are small and light and deliver up to 12 hours of medical-grade oxygen on a single charge.
Now that I've got my Inogen, I've got my freedom back. I'm back to living again.
Try an Inogen system free for 14 days.
Call now.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost and lonely. I had snapped, I had a gun, and I was going to take my own life. Heather helped me realize that there was still life to live. For the better of myself, my family, my weapon is now safely put away.
My son, Ricky, took his life by the use of a firearm. It broke me in ways that I never knew that I could be broken. And I contemplated suicide. Afterwards, we found out his girlfriend, she was pregnant. If that was my grandson, I was gonna have to be here for him. I still own my firearm. I keep it in a safe because I want to keep my grandson and myself safe.
A moment of crisis can happen to anyone.
Store your gun securely, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
Thank you to Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Hakam. This is Frankly Speaking. Let's go to some viewer comments. So grateful they aren't going away. That means the Biden's saying they're not going to go away. They're going to keep fighting. So grateful they aren't going away. A little morning sarcasm. Yes, I can't imagine he's going to do that much. At this point, you retire, right? Think of how much time he's spent in Delaware as of lately. I got to imagine he's going to retire. He's not going to be that. There's not going to be that much more fight in the Bidens, but who knows? Next up, Ken writes, I have to tell you, I bought some of Trump's fight cologne, and now all the Karens won't leave me alone, which is a nice rhyme. I like that. And my wife is not really happy with me or Trump. Hey, so that was a real cologne ad that if you weren't following it, after Trump and Jill Biden had such a friendly encounter at Notre Dame Cathedral, there's a photo taken, and I can't remember what the exact caption was, but it was buy Trump cologne, essentially. Something about the enemies will smell the fear of your enemies, or I don't remember what it was, but I thought it was just a kind of a meme. So there actually is fight cologne. Ooh, all right. I'd give it a shot. Why not? All right, speaking of that, and I think we see this a little bit here on the program, the national mood has shifted since Trump's win and is reviving America's lost vigor. The other day, a former student wrote to Glenn Reynolds, this is Glenn Reynolds at the Post, saying, "I just feel like a tide has shifted, and that feels more like the Reagan 80s than any other point in my life." And Glenn Reynolds says that he agrees. And, you know, it was Willie Robertson from Duck Dynasty said it actually became 2016. It was still, you were still a little bit ostracized if you supported Trump, or you were kind of a novelty if you had like Trump hat or a Trump shirt. Now, like he said, it's a cool thing. It's the cool side to be on. And we've seen a lot of young people who've had enough growing up in this woke culture, had enough of it and wanting something different, and it's become cool. You know, we've said on this program before, it's become rock and roll. If you really want to be rock and roll or punk, you would have to be a Republican. Following the whatever the government tells you to do, which would have been very opposed by rock and rollers, right? That is now what the Bruce Springsteens of the world are. They are the square, so to speak. So if you want to be, and they're the establishment. If you want to be rock and roll or punk, you would have to be Republican. And that's kind of what this piece by Glenn Reynolds is saying. It's not just that Donald Trump is the once and future president, while Kamala Harris has already shuffled off to the Mike Dukakis home for embarrassingly failed Democratic candidates, where she can share box wine and catty remarks with Hillary Clinton. It's that the entire energy of the nation and maybe the world has changed overnight. From the Daniel Penny exoneration to the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, before all the leaders of the West, including Donald Trump, but notably excluding Joe Biden, to the triumphant fights of Starship and a sudden shift in relations with previously difficult neighboring countries like Mexico and Canada, these last few weeks have felt like one big shout of "we're back, baby." Yeah, and that's a very good point. That many Democrats are upset over this, but Biden's so much in a lame duck mode that they don't like the fact that he's almost ceded the presidency to Donald Trump already. Donald Trump acting as if, and world leaders are looking at it as if he is already the leader of the free world, already the president. But that's one thing elections are supposed to do. Every few years, the nation is, in a sense, reborn. We pick different leaders, we change policies, we even, to some degree, change the image of ourselves. Under Biden, our nation and our national self-image was gloomy for the most part. You can liken him to America's King Lear, a ruler whose mind had deserted him. It was a presidency, in Shakespeare's words, constituting a tale told by an idiot, signifying nothing, which is also a pretty good summary of Biden's debate performance. This is Glenn Reynolds. When the performance made it obvious that Biden was not merely too senile to govern, notably in the insider cabal minded that, but also too senile to successfully campaign, he was unceremoniously booted. And we don't have to relitigate this. We've talked about this in the past, but Glenn Reynolds has a good point, just the difference in mood. I would make the argument that I think the difference in that mood as a nation and that mood towards Trump came with the first assassination attempt, with the, going back to Ken's words, that the fight. That, and I think it was Peggy Noonan, by no means a Trump supporter, saying that when she saw that photo of the blood streaming down his face and the fist, and know that he was saying fight, you can't see that iconic photo, that historic photo, and think that person will not be the next president of the United States. It's just not possible, she said. That person has to be, because that photo is so historic. And of course, we know at the time that's why they were trying to censor it or not show it as much. But that would be my argument. That's when the vibe, to use the Harris campaign's term, that's when the vibe changed. But continuing, though Harris, his replacement, meaning Biden's replacement, had never won a Democratic delegate, no one dared contest her ram-through nomination. She ran a cheerless campaign under the banner of joy, but in reality was a mere cog in the Democratic machine trying to pose as brat. She took a drubbing, and now everything is different. Under Biden, and especially with the prospect of a successor regime under Harris, America's prospects were grim. Now they're bright, and all sorts of problems that were thought to be too tough to deal with, immigration, shrinking the deficit, reforming education, the bureaucracy, the military, and more, are suddenly being addressed by competent people. Well, as I say, elections are supposed to do that. Of course, the powers that be don't like this one bit. Through a combination of censorship, like in 2020 about the Hunter Biden laptop, 2024, Joe pardoning Hunter, bullying via mobs and cancel culture, and sheer hectoring by a controlling cheerleading media. The Democrats managed for a while to make the many people unhappy with the way things were going feel like they were a powerless minority. All the people, and it was talked about on this program by numerous viewers, you felt that in the air. People just weren't happy, whether it's going to the grocery store and paying all that money, thinking about how you have to cut back. We talked about it during Thanksgiving, cut back on certain Thanksgiving dishes and traditions. Maybe you're doing the same come Christmas season. There was that feeling of not being able to get out of that hole, right? And that changed overnight. We lived under a milder version of what tyrants accomplish, a condition called preference falsification. If it's not safe for people to express their true feelings, even a majority can be made to feel hopelessly outnumbered. Yes, if we self-censor in that way. If you were mocked and ridiculed, which that's one of the reasons why we've talked so often on this program about one of the reasons why Harris lost, because they would mock and ridicule if you express very serious concerns about your finances, about putting food on the table for you and your family. They would mock you, ridicule you, suggest that you're not smart enough to understand the actual numbers. Eventually calling you garbage, calling you, as Governor Hochul did, anti-American, anti-woman if you vote Republican, et cetera, et cetera. And so many people, and we've talked about it on this program so often, many people felt the need to self-censor, whether it's to keep their job, to keep their family, to keep a loved one, keep a relationship going. They self-censored and wouldn't talk about their support of Trump. But you could feel the shift. Now, it's not safe for people to express their true feelings in that scenario, is what Glenn Reynolds said. Even a majority can be made. So if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, the majority can be made to feel hopelessly outnumbered. And it mostly worked until the election revealed that most Americans were on board with open borders, a DEI-based military, woke racial politics, a diplomacy simultaneously warmongering and weak, and rampant corruption. Because that's another thing elections do. They reveal the true preferences of the voters. Tied together with Trump's victory is Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter and its rebirth as a free speech platform rather than a hive of censorship. Elitist left have fled X for a new hive of censorship called Blue Sky. Their objection to X isn't that it was censoring them, but rather that it wasn't censoring their opponents. And there's a really good piece, we're not going to be able to get to it, I believe it was at the New York Post this morning, talking about this idea that because now there may be difference of opinion on Twitter and Facebook, many on the left are jumping to new platforms where they can continue to live in their bubble, and that the other side will be censored. Free speech lets people criticize what the government is doing and what politicians and pundits are saying, and lets people signal to others how they feel. You can't pull off preference falsification if there are any open channels of free speech, which is why the left has gone all in on censoring misinformation, their term for a truth that is politically inconvenient. And that's a very important definition of misinformation, that it is true, that misinformation, but it's not politically convenient for them. But censorship, preference falsification, and overweening government are recipes for stagnation. Free speech and free elections, as we're seeing right now, are the path to both freedom and dynamism. Keep that in mind in the coming years. Glenn Harlan Reynolds. I thought that was a very important piece. That vibe. How do you feel about the vibe, the feelings since Election Day? But we got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Trust your smile to Dr. Joshua Henches at Watkins Glen Family Dentistry. Buffalo graduate and member of the American and New York Dental Associations, Dr. Henches offers treatment in all areas of general dentistry, including same-day crowns, implants, root canals, oral surgery, and Sure Smile orthodontics. Trust Dr. Henches and his staff for the best dental care in the region. Visit our office at 703 South Decatur Street in Watkins Glen, or visit us online at watkinsglenfamilydentistry.com.
To the tremendous response, Hesselson's returns their Arnott Mall location this week with more great deals on their American Whirlpool, swim spas, and hot tubs. Thousands of dollars of savings and over 25 models still in stock, but 4 days only this Thursday through Sunday. Take delivery now and save even more. Plus, free chemicals, free steps, and free Bluetooth music. Hesselson still offers 0% financing options for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's Arnott Mall this Thursday through Sunday, Old Champ Store, with their American Whirlpool, hot tubs, and swim spas. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I'm Nancy O'Dell. This is Crime Expose.
It's chilling, it's haunting.
We knew exactly who it was.
Blood stains on her shorts.
See you in September.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson's studio. A couple comments from viewers. Doesn't it prove the conversation about blue sky proves that the ones discussing it are no more than having the mental capacity of children that just want their way? There's no discussion because they're incapable of having a meaningful conversation. Yeah, it's very much why The View's so popular. When I say so popular, I mean amongst the left. The View, Stephen Colbert, basically the shows that Kamala Harris went on, because they want to tune in and have their worldview confirmed. They want to go turn on Stephen Colbert and laugh at the same corny 10-year-old jokes about the orange bad man and laugh and clap and like seals. That's what they want. So that's why they want to go to a social media where they can continue to stay in their bubble and not learn from what happened in November. That's why after Election Day we asked, will there be soul searching? Will they have learned something? And I think the answer is pretty clear no from what we've seen from them so far. Yes, there are some that are waking up to the mistakes that they made, but there are many that are just, they want to be in their bubble. It's almost cult-like. They don't want to hear anything that inconveniences their political beliefs, anything that makes them uncomfortable politically. They just want people to go on there and talk about how bad Trump is and how important these woke policies are. Comment from a different viewer. Oh, this is from Ken. Hey, Ken. I think Biden will ride off into obscurity. Me too. Not because he wants to, but who would want him to be a part of anything? But his name will be invoked as the scapegoat for all the failed policies his handlers made him put forth for many years. I agree. I don't see anybody wanting to, I mean, I don't know, maybe he's one of these presidents that gives because I mean, he's obviously someone that enjoys his money, as we've seen from, I know he says he was the poorest member of Congress, but I'm just saying with some of the things we learned from Biden's laptop. So, maybe he gives those speeches, $50,000 speeches, that's teleprompter. Maybe he does something like that, but I don't see too much. It's not like if you're running for something, you're going to want him to be a part of it. And I do think he's going to be the scapegoat. He went from George Washington and being a president that was, should have been on Mount Rushmore, according to the Nancy Pelosi's of the world. He went from that to very quickly being the fall guy, being the scapegoat, and they'll blame everything on him. That's what loyalty to the Democrat Party for over 50 years gets you. That's how bad politics is, especially when it comes to the political left. And keep in mind, these are the same people around him that were saying, yes, you can run. You're good. You're great. You're the only one that can beat Trump. And covering up his mental decline because they wanted him to run for re-election. Then when he showed the world on the debate that he didn't have it anymore, then they turn on him and now say, even after years of propping him up, now saying that he waited too long to drop out. So I agree with you, Ken. I think he does kind of ride off into obscurity. I don't see him doing much more than, you'll occasionally see an article about how's he doing in Delaware, or, whatever that case may be. But not of real relevance, I would agree. And it's not as if politically he's going to stay involved. But anyway. Did you hear that President-elect Donald Trump has reportedly invited Chinese President Xi Jinping to attend his inauguration? He's turning this into a party because we heard that Benjamin Netanyahu, I think, is confirmed that he will attend, or at least that he was invited. The invite was made in early November, shortly after Trump's Election Day victory. It's unclear whether Xi has accepted the invitation. The Chinese embassy did not immediately respond to the Post's request for comment. A spokesperson for the Trump-Vance transition team would not confirm nor deny the report of Xi's possible historic appearance at the January 20th inauguration. Trump-Vance's transition spokeswoman, Carolyn Leavitt, said world leaders are lining up to meet with President Trump because they know he will soon return to power and restore peace through American strength around the globe. State Department records dating back to 1874 indicate that no foreign leader has ever attended a presidential inauguration. Well, that's interesting. So does that mean Benjamin Netanyahu is going to be the first or be a part of this first convoy of world leaders? Now, he may not be the only world leader that attends the swearing in, as I mentioned it. A Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, whom Trump regularly referenced on the campaign trail and meets with at Mar-a-Lago, is still considering whether to attend the inauguration. And I have not, and this does not mention Netanyahu, but that was reported last week. So we'll keep an eye open for that as well. Oh, by the way, yesterday, and what are your thoughts on that? The Chinese president attending the inauguration. And I keep asking this question. I'm surprised that we haven't heard from anybody on the show. I thought for sure, but is anybody out there going to attend the inauguration? I know it's kind of a rigmarole, if you will, to get the tickets and obviously get a hotel. This is how petty politics can be. I know that there were some Democrats putting a push on to book up hotel rooms and book up Airbnbs so that Trump supporters could not afford or find, I should say, a place to stay for the inauguration. Yeah, that'll show them. But your thoughts? Are you going to go? Do you know someone that's going to attend? I think it would be fun. I personally am not, because I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to report on it here on the program and talk about all that we're seeing. I think it's going to be a very important one. If you recall last time, Donald Trump says this one's going to be about unity. If you recall last go around, it was still remarkable. Basically talking about all the problems with Washington and the swamp to the people that he was referring to. They were right behind him. It would have made most people uncomfortable, probably would have pulled their punches a little bit, but not Donald Trump, blaming the people behind him for all the world's ills. But we've got a lot more to talk about. Wrapping up today's edition. Only 15 minutes left, so keep those comments coming in. Will you be going to the inauguration? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings since Election Day? Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Our water's better tasting, it's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. Those 9 months were also 273 days of planning. What about your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. And let's not forget those barbecues you plan in detail for your family and your more vegetarian by the day best friends. Surprise party for your parents' golden anniversary? You get the golden planning. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
The Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm so glad that you've joined us this morning as we get ready to wrap up today's edition. A comment from Ken. Ken, this is eerie that you said this, because it was one of those shower thoughts or whatever they call it, where it just randomly popped into my head this morning thinking about this. So this is what Ken has to say. So it's weird that you brought this up today. Do you think Biden's handlers could have him preemptively pardon all the immigrants that illegally entered the country? I was thinking the same exact thing this morning. I don't know, because look, he had a sweeping pardon announcement, clemency and pardon announcement this morning with 1,500 people with clemency, 39 pardons. Great question, Ken. We're on the same page there, buddy. It was weird that when I read that, because I literally had that exact same thought earlier this morning driving in. Okay, Trump has tapped Kari Lake to serve as the director of Voice of America. The former Republican Senate candidate from Arizona. Trump indicated that Lake, quote, will be appointed by and work closely with his soon-to-be-announced pick to lead the U.S. Agency for Global Media to ensure that the American values of freedom and liberty are broadcast around the world fairly and accurately, unlike the lies spread by the fake news media. Kari was a beloved news anchor in Arizona, which supported me by record margins for over 20 years, the president said in his announcement on Truth Social. As head of the Voice of America, Lake will lead a taxpayer-funded international media outlet with a $267 million budget that has faced accusations of censorship and wokeism under the Biden administration. All right, well, here we go. Here's a question from a viewer. Frank, I have a question for Ken. Ken, will you be sitting next to Xi Jinping at the inauguration? As much as he's done, as close as he is to all this, he should be at the inauguration, I would say. I don't know, next to Xi Jinping. So I wanted to mention this quickly, and I know we're running late, but ProPublica, did you see their attack on Pete Hegseth? Listen to this. A botched smear of Secretary of Defense designate Pete Hegseth just further exposed the rank partisanship in both the military and the media, and showed exactly why President-elect Donald Trump needs a reformer like Hegseth running the Pentagon. On Twitter on Wednesday, Hegseth flagged an in-the-works hit piece saying, quote, we understand that ProPublica, the left-wing hack group, is planning to publish a knowingly false report that I was not accepted to West Point in 1999. To put aside any doubt, he included a photo of his acceptance letter from then West Point Superintendent, Lieutenant General Daniel Christman. And so after they get called out on this, because they wanted the damage could have been done before, but luckily he got news of it ahead of time. So their excuse now is, well, we didn't publish it. ProPublica senior editor Jesse Eisinger answered with tellingly self-importance. Quote, we asked West Point Public Affairs, which told us twice on the record that he hadn't even applied there. We reached out. Hegseth's spokesperson gave us his acceptance letter. We didn't publish a story. That's journalism. He followed with an 11-part thread concluding, quote, this is how journalism is supposed to work on the tail, but never explained why the publication started chasing the story in the first place, nor why ProPublica never dug into, let's say, Tim Walz's claims. Interesting, right? The reason, of course, is that ProPublica isn't so much a news outlet as it is a left-wing opposition research project funded by a shadowy, anonymous donor to dig up dirt, some of it possibly true, on Republicans and conservatives, as witnesses by the smears on Justice Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. Still a mystery is just how the West Point Public Affairs team failed so conveniently for ProPublica's agenda, repeatedly giving false info to an agenda-driven outlet, answers that might have violated the Privacy Act even if they had been true. A genuine news outlet could have turned these events into an expose on the forces working to tank this nomination. You have to wonder if some insider at the school or higher up in the command chain didn't suggest ProPublica chase the story. Certainly high command is nervous about Hegseth and Trump's stated intentions to fire woke generals who've risen to the top as politicians in uniform. Hegseth's lucky that he had the 20-year-old letter handy. Absent hard proof to the contrary, ProPublica might have gone to the press with the lie, apologizing only when and if it had to. Yeah, because they knew that if they could get that out before, if he didn't have that acceptance letter, they could have, they would always plant that seed. And you'd always hear left-wing people going, well, he didn't even get into West Point, and push that conspiracy. They know the damage would have already been done. With the eager cooperation of top Pentagon career officials, Democrats for years have pushed political correctness and even mandatory DEI re-education on our troops. Putting political partisans in civilian jobs at West Point is even easier. The military academy voluntarily removed duty, honor, country from its mission statement back in March. The longer the Hegseth nomination fight goes on, the more obvious the need for someone like Pete to start cleaning house at the Pentagon. America needs a military devoted to doing its job, not to catering to the left. We got to take our last break of today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
The holiday season has arrived, a time where more than ever our thoughts turn gratefully to those who serve our community and those all around us. May the holiday season end the present year on a cheerful note and make way for a fresh and bright new year. Here's wishing you a happy holidays. This holiday greeting is brought to you by our friends at Tom South Corning Collision, Sheddon's Wholesale, Suburban Propane, Corning Building Company, Empire Bricks, Hector Wine Company, and Apple Ridge Senior Living.
It's your season of sharing.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is History Making. Thank you to Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your home and business security needs. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Okay. A lot of comments coming in. Wow. Right at the end here. Hopefully I can get to all of them. I'm going to try to do my best. Here we go. As we wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. There, come on, get my comments up here. There we go. It is not revenge for the Department of Justice to prosecute crimes that have been committed. I support prosecution of any crime by any prior administration official, regardless of Biden preemptive pardon, and let them take it to the Supreme Court to see if this new presidential power is legal, kind of like what they did. Good point, Fred. Thank you very much. I would think since they're not really U.S. citizens, he would be pardoning citizens from a different country. Yeah, I'm not sure how that works legally. Someone's saying I was thinking the same thing. The first time he pardoned his son, is it possible for a president to reverse a pardon? That would be my question. I do not believe so. I don't think you could pardon someone and have Trump come in and say, unpardoned. I don't think it works like that. And Ken, I would agree. Ken says, I'm not sure, but I think someone is thinking I'm a Chinese asset. I was actually going to be sitting next to Elon. I wondered why they picked Xi Jinping, if you'd be sitting by Xi Jinping. I think they think you're a Chinese asset too. Ken, thank you, everybody, for all the comments this morning. Tomorrow is our big day. It is the second annual Salvation Army Telethon. I hope that you'll be a part of it. As I've been saying numerous times, we have great music. Crystal Chords, Doc Possum. We're going to have special guests, Mayor Corning, many others. I don't want to give away everything. I hope that you will be a part of it tomorrow morning, starting at 6. If you would like to make a donation ahead of time, there's the QR code, or you can text the word MATCH to 31333. That's word MATCH to 31333. And just be a part of the fun, festive event for our Christmas, Frankly Speaking, Christmas special, we'll call it. But it's going to be all morning Frankly Speaking, from 6 to 8 tomorrow. We have a lot of music. I hope we can get to all of it. As a matter of fact, I'm starting to wonder. But what we're doing here is raising money for an amazing cause, the Salvation Army of Corning. And as we have said over and over again, we have an amazing, thoughtful, generous viewer who has agreed to match up to $5,000. So if you've been thinking, this time of year I normally donate $50 to the Salvation Army, I'll do that during the telethon. Great. That $50 is now $100 for the Salvation Army. And our goal is to hit that full $5,000 so we can present the Salvation Army of Corning with a check for $10,000. Wouldn't that be wonderful? So please be a part of tomorrow's broadcast, and if you can find it in your heart to give to such an amazing cause, we would greatly appreciate it. And we'll tell you all about it tomorrow. We're going to have some fun videos to show you a little bit of what the Salvation Army of Corning does. We're going to have a lot of special guests, and as I said, a lot of Christmas music. You're going to love it. So make sure that you join us. If you have any questions, by the way, about the texting or about how to donate, you can come in ahead of time. I'll be here today most of the day. You can drop off your check or your cash or tomorrow live during the broadcast. But if you have any questions, you see the number on the bottom of your screen. Feel free to reach out to me. I can meet you somewhere. We could figure it out. So if you have any questions about tomorrow's telethon or how you could donate to the Salvation Army of Corning, use that number on the bottom of your screen. And the same goes for tomorrow, too. If you have any questions during the broadcast, was a normal broadcast, just with a lot of fun music and fun guests, which is pretty typical with the fun guests. So you can reach me all day long, today or tomorrow, on that number or any day. All right, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Have a great day, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with Frankly Speaking in the second annual Salvation Army Telethon. I look forward to it already.
I'm Marion Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.